after will come up on our break. But anyway.
And Mojo time.
Yeah, I keep forgetting we should just stick to the Mojo clock. The Mojo 50.
I'm so confused.
Yes, I'm confused. Okay, 10 seconds, folks. 10 seconds. We're going in hot. Coming in hot.
9, 8.
Oh, 5, 4. And. Well, there went that again. Okay, it's doing it again. Wow, this is awesome. Now it won't work at all. Okay, here we go. I got to restart this thing someday. Crazy. Live radio, folks. We even tested it earlier. Oh, my goodness. Well, I'll say welcome in now that we've kind of already did a little introductions and everything. Welcome into Life in Progress, folks. It's a day, I'm telling you. And now I can't find all you folks on my screen here. There you are. Okay, there's all my lovely peeps there. Oh, my goodness. Good grief. What a day. I'm telling you. Good grief. Hey, you know what? Let's segue right into that. We got a listener. I don't want to throw her name out there. I don't know if she's comfortable with that, but we have an awesome lady who's a listener who sent in an email, I believe, to Miss Melissa asking us to talk about some grief.
Yeah, and is she really a lady or just a female?
Well, you know what? Personally, I've never met her. I've never met her in person. I've talked to her on the phone. I've, chit chat in the social media. That's a whole nother story.
No, she's wonderful. Later. And she wanted to talk about grief. And I have to say, a lot of us have had a really crappy 2019, but
yeah.
And I think
for this person
2019 was a shitty decade.
It's been a bad year for her. Yeah, a very bad year for her.
So yeah, I guess we're talking about grief, and I've been thinking about this. Melissa had told me, hey, this is a topic that we've been asked to cover, and I know it'll start flowing, but I don't know really what to think about it. I mean, we all have grief. I think it's good to grieve. I think it's healthy. If you hold it in, not so much.
You sound like Charlie Brown. It's good grief.
Didn't I just say good grief?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm like, no, that's just.
No, I'm just messing with you. But I think the thing is that everybody grieves differently. It's just based on your personality.
Yes.
And,
okay.
I mean, if you Google grief, there are, 5 stages, but some of the classes that I've taken, and it's like 9 or 10. And it's all on how you process the grief, and it depends on the situation. Because a loss of a friend or a neighbor is totally different than a parent or a child. But there is really no, from what I've studied, there is no textbook way to grieve. You do it on your own. I mean, you experience losses, and it depends on, the gravity of the losses, whether it's a loss of a dog or a loss of a parent. And, the spectrum is so wide on that.
And I think the important thing is to make sure that you face that grief, that you don't bury it, you don't try to run from it, that because again, not everybody, I don't think everybody has all 10 stages or all 5 stages of the grief, even because I think that's personality wise also.
You're right, Kirk, you're right, because even from what I've learned is there's, some people try to put these stages in place, or textbook stages, but you don't go through them 1, 2, 3, 4. You could go 1, 2, back to 1, all the way to 5, back to 1. It is, and I think that's a personal thing you go through.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I don't have to say this. I know everyone out there listening knows this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Grieving doesn't always mean you lost a person, like a life, like they lost a life. It could mean you lost a dog. It could mean you had issues and your dog had to go, had to go through a surgery. I don't know. It could be anything. It could be a relationship, a grief loss over a friend. Yeah. I mean, it could be a loss of, or not even a loss of a friend, but something maybe you and a friend are having troubles, negotiating, or you just have some obstacles that you're dealing with in a relationship, whether it's a friend, a child, relationships, your spouse or whoever, a coworker for that fact. There could be grief in all kind of capacities.
So, grief hits at different stages too, because grief hits, there's some grief that's unexpected. And there's some grief that you have time to prepare for. So when you have a family member or a loved one or a friend who is sick, and you know that the inevitable is coming, sometimes you have time to prepare for things. And so people are able to manage and deal with it and find a little bit easier way to manage and find the closure versus things that happen very unexpectedly.
Instantly, yeah.
And there's also, and I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus on this one either, but I have a very close friend of mine, he's a brother to me, who had something happen, years back that he still deals with every day. And it was a loss of someone he did not know. I'm not going to go into that, but you also have those situations. You can grieve literally over people you've never had a relationship with.
And that's part of our, like for the people that listen to Mojo 50, everybody I think is still, for the devout listeners are still grieving the loss of Doc.
Yes.
That too.
But my question is, how do you guys grieve? How do you find comfort in your grievance? Even if you haven't lost, the listener that asked me, and she wasn't very specific. She just said she wants to talk about grief. So I'm wondering, do you guys have any tools or any mechanisms of grieving, whether it's a big loss? I don't know if you guys ever lost parents or grandparents, siblings, or children, or a loss of a relationship, a loss of a job. I mean, all of that falls under the umbrella of grieving. But how do you guys grieve? Because I know it's different.
I guess I'll go. And for myself, this has been a process to where it's honestly maybe starting to change for me, and maybe I consider it to be a good way. In the past, just grieving, I feel bad, I'm crying or whatever, and I'm wondering, I have so many questions to ask that can never be answered, not in this earth at least. Not in this lifetime, but maybe going forward in my life. And this is what I'm hoping for. Getting closer to God, having more of a relationship with God, and just trying to give it back to Him. Really. I mean, it's what we can't rely on our own understanding. We know that. So
that makes a huge difference.
It's not easy, but maybe it's the best thing to do.
Megan, how do you grieve?
Being where I'm at now in my journey of faith, and I'm in a much better place now than I've been in years past. It does change your perspective on things. You look at things differently. You're able to you're able to find peace with things and deal with things better. Over the years, I've dealt with grief in different ways. I've witnessed, and sometimes humor. When both my grandparents died, I remember two of my uncles. I have, unfortunately, sometimes death brings out the worst in people. Sometimes it brings out the best. I have uncles that were in the back of the funeral home carrying on and laughing and giggling and making up funny songs. And it was their way of dealing with things, and I was perfectly fine with it because I get that was the way it worked for them. So humor, sometimes finding the humor, and depending on who, when my other grandfather passed away, remembering what a character he was, he would have been so upset if people would have grieved him in a bad way. He wanted to be remembered as the prankster, the jokester, and you had to laugh and you had to find the humor. So you had a mix of the crying, the laughter, something very personal for me and anyone who's known me for years. I was never supposed to be able to have children. So I had a dog. He was a 130-pound Weimaraner, the most spoiled dog that you've ever seen in your entire life. Has done more than most humans have ever had. And when I lost him, Max was 3 when I had to put him down. It was 3 years of unimaginable grief. Losing that dog was worse than losing a family member to me. And I'm embarrassed to admit that, but at the same time, I mean, that dog was my world. He was my firstborn. So I get and I understand people whose pets, especially people who don't have children, that their pets are their children. I can't imagine the loss of a child. I just can't even begin to fathom that. And I am not even trying to say that this is but I understand. And that has been the worst grief that I've dealt with. Next to, I was at the day that we learned of Doc's death, I was at the hospital all day and met my sister-in-law, and she sat with me and looked at me and said, she said, you would deal with the death of a family member better than you're dealing with this. And honestly, that's the truth.
I understand that. I absolutely understand that. I listened to the broadcast first thing in the morning and, and I kept hearing the disclaimers. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. And, grieving loss. And I still do, probably more than I would, some family members or whatever. But, we all grieve in different ways for different reasons. And I just wonder how to, and I'm saying this because of the listener, like how to move forward with the grief. How do you, whether it's your faith or is it your believing that, just carry on the memory, just keep talking about memories, all the time. I think
that's a good thing.
Is that too much, or is that?
And of course, I think this depends on the individual who's dealing with it. I mean, because no matter how we well, hold on, let me back up here. I think, okay, if Kirk and I are both men, okay, we're both
if
well, I don't know about you, but
yep.
I don't want to assume any gender. Anyway.
Still there.
Anyway. Did you refill your gender fluid today? I did. I'm good. So
pumpkin spice.
Yeah, I mean, if you take two guys you think are the same, and they may be the best of friends. They do everything. They hang out together. But when it comes to dealing with grief, maybe one of those guys or ladies or whoever you may be, totally deals with it differently. I mean, I may be the guy joking around about it to deflect. So Kirk may be, he may be the guy who just totally embraces everything and pulls it in and just doesn't let go, not in a bad way, but doesn't let go to not let go of that person. There's so many different kinds of grief here.
Sean, you're absolutely right, because I've seen that with, in the military, where I have two friends that witnessed the same exact conflict or the same exact situation that happened, and one person has PTSD
Mm-hmm.
because it affected him so much, and another one compartmentalized and didn't affect them at all.
And I think some of that
Mhm.
depends on how you're raised and what you were exposed to prior to having that incident happen to you.
And that how you're raised, I think that's important. One of the things that we've taught, because we've gone through a number of pets, like my oldest son lost a cat to like leukemia, and then had another cat who like disappeared and was later found dead. And to deal with the grief of that, what I always did was I would swing by the grocery store and I would grab Ben and Jerry's for everybody. And then we sat
Wow.
around the table and we talked about all of our favorite memories of everything that the cat did. You know, we had one cat that passed away because he was old, and I wound up having to put down, you know, because he was just getting sicker and sicker and sicker or whatever. And we did the same thing. You know, we'd sit around and I think that's a neat way to do it, because one, it's everybody's facing it. It's teaching our kids that it's okay to hurt, to cry, to, you know, but at the same time, you know, it's a good way to get it out and share it, you know, until the one day when I came home with Ben and Jerry's and the kids were wondering what happened.
Right?
And I wondered why they had both gone ashen white. And I'm like, no.
Ben and Jerry's, Dad, who died? Oh my
I know, right? Oh,
It's a new
that would be-
flavor. It's a new flavor.
when you see the ice cream truck pulling up to deliver your Ben and Jerry's, you're wondering, oh no.
I think
know.
something-
So,
But
Oh.
but I think that if everybody here is, you know, people of faith, but I think if it wasn't people of faith or didn't believe
question.
or not Christian or whatever, but I do think that talking about the memories of
yes,
of the
Yeah.
deceased is what keeps them alive.
it kind
I-
of builds their legacy.
But at the same time, you can still move on
Right.
because there's a point where you have to, in your grief, there has to be a moving on point, and that is still, you know, it's not part of the 5 scientific things, but to me, I believe that moving on is part of grief, and that's what anybody that loves you is what they're going to want to do. But you still talk about them, as long as you talk about them and keep their memory alive, then you know that's that's eternal life. That
I think
you know, and if you're not a person of faith, or if you are a person of faith, either way, talk about the positive memory, or not even just positive. You talk about the memories, you talk about the situations you've been in, and you know, all of that stuff that keeps that person alive in your brain. And I think that helps with grief.
the best thing you could do, I think, for someone who has experienced a loss, whether it be a friend, a family member, a neighbor, anyone, a pet, anyone, even if it's someone you're not close to, even if it's a coworker, take the time and talk to them. Ask them, tell me about your favorite memory. What's something that you remember about them? Because I found we had at our church, we lost a teaching pastor 2 Christmases ago, and I didn't realize how much that affected me, and it still affects me when I still see snippets from, you know, of sermons that he did. What an amazing man, and how he touched so many. And it's still a struggling with that loss. Just being able to talk about him to people and letting me tell people about some of the humor that this man had, and how he, you know, his inbox would get flooded on Monday mornings after he talked about how he hated when they moved the cat food at the grocery store because he needed to find cat food so his German Shepherd had somebody to play with. It was
Wait,
so just being able to.
I never even met him, and that's a good story.
That was so just being able to talk. And so I have found, for me, talking about someone, you're right, keeping someone's memory alive. But when you see someone who's experienced something, even if it's someone you're not close to, talk to them, listen, because I think sometimes somebody just needs to tell their favorite story, their favorite memory. They just need someone to listen what they're going through, and, you know, and let them talk about it and cry with them. If you need to cry, get a box of tissues and sit with them and let them cry, because you know what? we all have been there. And I think it's amazing, you know, how you can bring yourself closer to someone by just taking the time to listen and spend that time with someone to preserve someone's memory.
You are right, Megan. That is awesome, because I think that is a life lesson. That is a life in progress lesson. If you want people to cherish your memory while you're still alive, do things that people will cherish later. You know, do good things, volunteer, and, you know, leave your memory and leave something for people to talk about.
Yes.
And we all know Doc certainly did.
Oh my goodness, yes. And of all days, we woke up to a rerun to his voice.
I know.
And it was a damn it, Doc morning. Today was a damn it, just damn it.
For those out there who may not be familiar with Moto 50 or Doc Thompson, Doc Thompson was he was one of the four of our mentors. Yeah. He's a tell it like it is, mock you if he felt the need, but I'm just an all-around good guy, and would want to tell a joke just to bring you in closer. Yes. And lead you to Jesus afterwards. Yes. And it might be a dirty joke. You never know. You never know what Doc does.
But I think he helps soften a lot of us up. Yes. To not be offended all the time. I think
for that one chick.
Except for that one.
It's not me this time.
No, it's not about you.
No, it's not about you. It's
never
about you. It's not about you, lady. Oh, hey, I just wanted to say real quick, one of our biggest fans is watching. Indiana Mike. What's up? Yep.
Mike.
Indiana Mike, I hope you're doing well, brother. I hope you're feeling better.
I hope, yeah.
Watch out for the javelin nurse. That's all I'm going to say about that. Go ahead.
Holy crap. Let's hope the nurse isn't mad at her boyfriend at the time.
Just use some, never mind.
I've been attempting to peruse the comments, and if nobody, we need to read Leslie's comments. My goodness, Leslie.
And Holly's in here tonight.
Wow.
Too.
And Holly's in here. Leslie, the comments, girl, you're making me cry. I've got to go back and read these.
Did you get your tissues?
I can't get them.
I can't reach them.
Yeah.
I use my sleeve. It's all good.
I'm watching them as well. My buddy Scott Morris is in here tonight as well. My brother from another mother, Mr. Scott Morris. That man's been through, he knows what grief is. I don't want to step out of line here and say the wrong thing, but I would almost venture to say, I would call that some PTSD. And like I said, it was from a person he didn't know. And it took a toll on his whole life. He grieves every day. And, without going into it, people can have that situation as well. Oh, Miss Heidi's in the she's watching.
Hey, Heidi.
How the hell are you getting this? I can't see any of it.
I'm not getting
Life in Progress on Facebook.
Well, I have 4 devices going, so I can monitor.
I just have my phone going.
Yeah, it's not letting me do it. Anyway.
Was it not? I don't understand. Why is it? You can't just go to the page and.
No, it's not letting me do it. But anyway.
Okay. I'll try to keep you guys up with who's in the room and what's going on,
yeah, keep us updated.
I don't know. I do think, you hear the term good grief. Yes.
And I was going to ask, that's what I was going to say. I was like, well, Charlie Brown, I think, knows what good grief is, and I don't know what that is.
I think grief is a good thing. We have to go.
It is. We have to.
You do not, but you brought something key up, and we've only got a little bit of time here before we go to break. Of course, that's just bonus material. But, you'd mentioned someone, if they're not a believer, if they don't have faith, if they're an atheist or something, maybe they just grieve of, I don't like this sucks, that person's gone. But do they think about it differently because they don't believe, they believe maybe just the lights go out when you die? Of course we're talking about grieving a death, of course. There's many.
Well, yeah, they think of it organically, like you die just like a plant dies or an animal dies. You
Ashes to ashes and dust to dust.
and some other, agnostics, or they think that you just go into the earth and become one with the earth, or
That's all right. Okay, well, we're just going to have some music and we're going to keep talking. Maybe we should get rid of this whole bottom of the hour break and just continue. But, hey, it breaks things up a little bit. It's okay. Good evening, Mr. Russell Wells. Lee Ochu. Oh, I'm away from the music to stop here.
My friend Val's watching. Hey, Val.
Okay, and so Scott Morris says, go ahead, Sean. And yes, I do have PTSD, but much better at dealing with it. No more drugs. I hate pharmaceuticals. Scott and the rest of the folks listening, we're going to talk about some pharmaceuticals someday.
Read Holly's comment.
About that. Yeah, I just saw Holly's comment.
Depending on the type
of grief.
Yeah.
Depending on the type of grief, it makes you count your true blessings. And that is very, very true. With the hardest of times, it really makes you realize how very fortunate, and it brings out the true blessings in life.
And here's something else, and not everyone has a faith, but be thankful. This is my thoughts. It's not my thoughts. It's actually, and I don't remember the verse. Sorry. It's a Bible verse, I believe. Be thankful to God in your circumstances. That doesn't mean for your circumstances, but while your circumstances, and that could be bad, it could be good circumstances. In all circumstances, be thankful, because, man, he's there. No matter what's going on. What are you doing over there, Melissa Sippy?
I am texting Holly.
Okay. Gosh. So much for show content. I see how it is. Fine. Hey, folks, while we're taking a little break, we suggest, please, well, we know you like it because you're here, but share the video. Share the, and it doesn't matter, music's going to start up here in a minute, but share it to everybody you know if you like it that much. Just saying. Coming in hot. Okay, folks. Well, I don't want to cut that story or that topic short, but I kind of wanted to get into this a little bit this evening. And first of all, I want to pose the question: Do you think the things that, not just us, but society in general, the things we post on social media, I mean, are we changing hearts and minds? I don't.
No.
For the most part,
no.
I would say social media does have its benefits. Information, some news, keeping in touch with your friends. But social media also, it has played a part with anxiety, depression, sleep quality, body image, cyberbullying, a gamut of things. And I watched a YouTube video earlier, and it says rates of anxiety and depression among teens have increased 70. Well, actually, it wasn't just teens. It was people in general, but have increased 70% in the last 25 years. Now, social media really hasn't been out for 25 years, but the internet's getting close, right? That number. Okay. So, and the body image is a problem for both genders. But I
Only
think there's-
two? There's like 100 and something. You only said two chambers.
I said yes. You're right. I said 2, Gilly. I think it was 9 in 10 girls say they're unhappy with their body, and 7 out of 10 teens have experienced cyberbullying. 37% say they've experienced it frequently. So what are we doing? I mean, social media plays a part in activism. Politics.
I think people that are extremely active on social media, and I think we are too, just because of
here right now.
We
We're
are.
doing it. That's how
well, I
everybody's
mean,
watching.
just because of our show, but I mean,
Sure.
people that are active, they're looking for echo chambers, and when they find somebody that
Right.
agrees with them, they lash out, and that creates anxiety. I mean, for the most part, the only reason I was on Twitter was, just so I could get on the Mojo 50 show or
What I
have
learned
Dr.
today.
Brad read my stuff.
Yeah.
But then once I started exploring it and watching the things that are trending, and it was really, despite the trigger word or whatever, triggering, it is extremely divisive.
Yeah,
But-
and Go ahead,
it
Kurt.
sparks, it makes you mad.
Mhm.
No matter
Yeah.
what side you're on, left, right, middle, whatever, it's going to make you mad no matter what.
And
Unless
personally,
you prefer to be in an echo chamber.
personally, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a terrifying thing, because whereas like when we were growing up, you got your news on the news, you got your news from the newspaper, you talked
I
with your
missed
friends
that.
at school, you talked with your coworkers, you talked with your church, you talked with whatever, and pretty much along those lines, ideologies didn't really shift all that much. I mean, everybody had their own personal views or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't the I don't know, information.
The vitriol, the hate
Well,
that came with somebody with a different opinion.
Not only that, but I think it was because you were dealing with people face to face. And I don't know how to explain the story. Like I personally think like any kind of financial help that should go to people should be local. I think doing it federally is wrong, because federally doesn't see how that money's actually being allocated. Only
agree.
because in the I don't know, the way I'm trying to bring it together is it's the same thing, like socially and locally, socially, you're going to be less apt to share vitriol, but you're also going to be less likely to share whatever, the incest incident that happened, the rape that you had, so I think there's
Whoa.
good that I think there's good that comes out of the social media too, because you have people that can anonymously relate to other people
You have a larger support system to
that
reach
were
out to.
right, that deal with the same circumstances. And I mean, and the internet, I think it should be as free as possible,
Yes.
except for
Absolutely.
child porn and terrorism.
Well, of course.
I think it should be wide open. I think
It
should
is.
be, and it is pretty much. But I think that's important because
That's the First Amendment.
and it is, you're 100%. And I think that's important because if you are a principled person, none of that is going to change your principles. It will challenge your principles,
Mhm.
Right.
but I think it will make you a better person in the long run if what you're doing is
You have to be mature first, though.
what you're trying to do is, make yourself a better person or see things differently. Because I've had Twitter conversations with people, and I've had Tumblr conversations with people that are diametrically opposed to my thought processes and stuff, you know, my faith, my whatever. And I've had very good conversations with people. I've also had the conversations with people, you know, where they're like, you know, pound sand or whatever.
Sure.
But
You
you
know.
also know where the healthy level is and when to walk away and when
Right.
it's affecting you and when to shut it off and go
Right.
past it.
And that's the thing, is because this is what I was saying, is you have to, and I will say, let me preface this. I would honestly say there's a majority. It might be 51%. I don't know the number, but I believe the majority of the people who get into these social media arguments or discussions, they call them discussions, I call them a shit show, whatever you call it, but
Yeah.
they're not emotionally mature. They're not intellectually mature. They're a keyboard warrior. They have no shame in their game. And all they're there to do is troll and start an argument and get their dopamine fix for the evening, whatever it may be.
Right.
And
Wow,
honestly,
you said dopamine.
you damn right I did. And so I go back a few years, you know, when look, I really cut back on the politics. What do they call it? Shit posting. I think this is it's a thing. You know, you throw something out there, it's like you're fishing, and you might have that person in mind.
Totally fishing.
I used to do this. There was a girl, I'm not going to say her name. She's a Bernie Sanders supporter that'll, you know, we're opposed. Okay. She has her beliefs and I respect that, but I would still throw things out there. And this is back, you know, the Facebook days, is that's all I was doing. And I know she watches everything I post. I know she's going to jump on it and it's going to just light her fire. And I would sit back and watch the comments just roll in and watch her start arguing with people. And I would get in there too. And I'm like, you know, over the years, first of all, I'm just tired of that because it's not mature. But it's not cool. That's breaking rule number 1. Don't be a jerk.
Yep.
Yeah, no, my best friend I've had since 7th grade. Her and I still talk. That's the girl I went to Nashville with. And she's, I'm not like extreme Republican, but I am definitely a conservative libertarian. But she's diehard left. She is diehard liberal. But I love her so much. And when we talk or we post anything on each other's Facebook, no, we just talk about things that we agree on, like, saving dogs and, pets. And then when we talk, we don't have to talk about politics. There is so much more in the world other than, who the hell is creating all of this. And it doesn't matter who the hell the president is, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. It's going to create vitriol. It's going to create
divide. Yeah.
And it's going to create arguments against people. But I am just so thankful that I have a friend who is so opposed to my beliefs and I'm opposed to her beliefs, but we could hang out for a week in a hotel room and just hang out and have a good time. And I think
awesome.
I think that's our maturity, though.
And that's important. And I am getting better about being a rule violator. I am blatantly a rule number 1 and rule number 5 violator, because I will get into a pissing contest with someone that I know until it gets out of hand, and then I'll tap out because it's ridiculous. But there's a lot of stuff I'm getting better about just leaving it alone. It's not worth it. Just walk away from it and leave it alone.
When we were in Nashville, I said something. We went to a restaurant and it was awesome. And they had fries that were they were waffle fries, like Chick-fil-A. And I was like, oh my God, these are even better than Chick-fil-A fries because they're waffle fries. And she was like,
oh my gosh, you go there?
And no, she was like, I don't go to Chick-fil-A because
you triggered.
Yeah, you totally, and you didn't even realize it, right?
And I was like, okay, that's cool. I do.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right?
But there's no ill will. We have this love for each other regardless. It doesn't even matter.
And that's the way it should be.
Let me ask you guys this then. So going off of what Melissa's talking about with her and her friend, you guys have been friends for many years, and before you realized where you stood politically, or maybe before you knew where she stood, before she knew where you stood. Right. Here's my question. Right. Here's my question though. Can you go talk to hang out with a person who you just met recently, who you don't have that years and years and years of bonding with, and have that built foundation of a friendship, and then find out after, knowing them for maybe just a few months, and then find out that they have a complete different belief than you, and still be able to be friends with them that's the tough part. That's the tough question.
Are you asking me?
No, anyone.
It depends. It depends on whether they're mature enough, because I don't have a problem being with friends and being friends with someone and disagreeing with them. I enjoy having a conversation with someone. And I also know that there's topics that we, avoid sometimes. I have friends that we just agree to disagree and move past it. But then there's people who can't let things go and are going to needle and poke and are triggered by everything. And it's not worth my time. I don't have that type of energy for a relationship.
I'll be, this is full disclosure here. This is where I've been. That's where I came from myself as a person. I would sometimes just argue things because I don't know if I have an answer why, but I would say, I don't know. It's like I just wanted to die on that hill, and it's not right. So I'm trying to have a different outlook on life and relationships in general. Me and one of the other guys, one of our other radio guys, we can start arguing, and then the next thing you know, I'm just like, all right, just stop. Don't make this a big thing. Why?
When there's so many amazing people out there, why not surround yourself with the people that make you feel good about yourself, that you make them feel good about themselves, that you get along, that you agree.
That's that bubble.
It's great. No, it's great to get beyond that bubble and have relationships. Yeah. But if it's not healthy, it's not worth it.
Okay, but see now that I wanted to get back to the social media, but you bring something up here. Yes, there is something I would consider as a toxic relationship, but also I believe that we have to learn to get past some of that and not just go, well, we don't agree. This is not going to work. This is going to be toxic. So we're just not going to, whatever. See you later. How mature is that as well? I know there's a line in there somewhere, but I think the line in society has, okay, toxic is up here somewhere. And now the big thing is, oh my gosh, you're toxic. I have to get rid of you. And so that line is coming down and down and down to where our tolerance and our ability to work things out with people, figure things out, solve issues, deal with them, confront the hard things we need to confront. I think that line is dropping in society, and everybody's just willing to give up and say screw commitment to fixing things. I know there's a line there, but I think society-wise, it's dropping, and I think it's very sad.
But you need to have your maturity lines need to be closer together in order to have that dynamic. And here's the thing: if you have a maturity level here and you have somebody with a maturity level here, it's not going to work. If your maturity levels are here and you're on opposite sides of the spectrum, you can agree to disagree and have a relationship. And those are great relationships to have. But the ones where the maturity level just isn't there, it's not going to work no matter how much effort you put into it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And how much of that is just how much society's changed?
Right.
Like,
and I think social media plays that part.
Growing up, you would date, you would get to know the person, you would have conversations, and now everybody, immediately moves in, plays house, and then decides, the other person is, toxic or whatever. There's not the getting to know each other anymore.
There's that, yes. I you know what I think that stems from?
Been shacking up.
Well, yes, but
I'd be terrified if something happened to Jessica.
I believe that our society
now.
Oh,
I would be terrified.
I can't imagine. But here's to go to what you're saying. I think with the internet, and I mean, even going as far as I can order something on Amazon, it can be here this afternoon. We have a high expectation for instant gratification. So I think maybe that time frame that people date is getting less and less and less before they think this is awesome, or you know what, screw this, I'm throwing it out the window. They're not, in either direction, they're not giving it that time for that relationship to mature naturally.
They don't have
take its
guidance on
course.
how to do that, though.
And yes, you're right. They don't.
True.
Well, and you see that all the time. Like, we were watching something, I forget what it was. It was I don't know, I can't think of the name of it. But basically
Some
the
show.
two couple they meet. Yeah, it's the new the Sling Blade guy. That series that Brad's always talking about.
Them good daters. Not that Sling Blade, no.
But like, they meet, they go to bed together, and then the next morning they get up, and like, she doesn't want to take the covers off to get dressed because
Wait,
she's
what?
embarrassed because he's standing right there. Now it's the next morning. They just met.
Okay.
They spent the
Yes.
night having sex, but now there's an issue because
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 the
now-
lights are on.
because now she's covered up and he has to turn away.
And now they're sober.
get dressed.
That doesn't make sense. But okay,
Thank you,
hold on.
Megan.
Yes, sober. Yes, that's most likely. I'll give you that. But look, let's just say this: two people in a relationship, and well, I don't mean in a relationship. Like what Kirk is saying. You know, they hook up, whatever, and the next morning, well, look, if you felt that way in the morning, even if you're look, I know if you're alcohol's it's a what do they call it, liquid courage, but it's also a truth serum.
Oh, yes, it is.
So look,
Don't get me started on
I know.
that.
Look, it's within you somewhere to be that person. So you knew going in what you were doing, drunk or not.
that will get
It
me
just lowers
started
your-
on the rabbit hole of the whole college rape stuff.
No, whoa. Eh.
But I guess what
You're
I
gonna-
was trying to say.
That
Alcohol.
might just piss me off.
I guess what I was trying to say is like the roles of intimacy have changed, because it used to be intimacy was getting to know the person,
Yes,
and then eventually having that intimate moment.
there's a foundation that needs
And
to be
now
built.
it's the sex, and getting to know the person is the more intimate part of
And
the
it's-
relationship.
Yes.
And I think the problem with that is feminism.
Oh, hey,
The current feminism and
are you guys taking notes on subjects we need to cover?
and
We have
and
so
thinking
many,
that
yeah.
they need to
Write
be
it down.
equal with and thinking that they don't need to be wooed or cherished
Yes.
or whatever. They need to act just like men. And
Well,
they
but
need
that's the
to
thing is,
have
that's the
sex
question.
just like men.
What is a man supposed to be? And I think that the answer to that is it's different for every woman
it's,
and man.
But it's lost with today's culture.
The role models that we had
Yes.
growing up. I can tell you from personal experience. Okay, here I'm pushing 50. I've had way too many failed relationships. My role models, my parents growing up, you're talking complete train wrecks. My parents are divorced, they're remarried, toxic, horrible, bad relationships, never had good role models, didn't have a good, religious foundation in the home. I screwed a lot of shit up for a lot of years before I finally got comfortable and figured out who I am. And I'm laughing because my best friend,
Preach it, girl.
I'm laughing. My best friend is Amish and two of her daughters are dating. And I watch them with their boyfriends walking down the road holding hands and they're courting and they sit on the porch. And I'm like,
That's
wow.
awesome.
Wow. The fact that the boys are invited over to the home for family meals and that they're not alone. There's always another girl with them. They're sitting on the porch, they're courting, they're going on buggy rides. They're getting to know one another. It's amazing. It's like, why can't the role models I had growing up? It's a wonder that I'm as sane as I am. And that's speaking very, y'all know me.
Yeah.
I want to say you
But you're
maybe-
pretty, so that's good.
I want to say that I know Kirk and Megan have both mentioned the word intimacy. Sorry, I'm waving some bug flying around.
Thought you were slapping us.
Yeah, I know. I thought I did.
No, no, no. No, so you guys have both mentioned the word intimacy. To me, it's not just physical. But Kirk, I think you'd brought this up to where this is how I feel. Intimacy goes way beyond being physical. It really is getting to know someone, like really getting to know that person.
Trust.
And that requires being vulnerable to that person. That also requires trusting yourself to be safe. Emotionally, I suppose.
Letting your walls down, and that's a
Well,
very hard thing to do.
Yeah, but I think being intimate on a non-physical platform builds the foundation
Oh,
of a relationship. And that's not even bringing God into the situation, but just as two people. And look, we're not just talking about a relationship of a couple. A friendship needs to have that foundation as well. It's a level of intimacy between two friends that's just talking, getting to know each other.
when you find
And how do you get that on social media?
But no, that's true. When you find someone that you can talk to and that you can open yourself up to and be vulnerable to and still be safe, it's amazing when you find that level of friendship, relationship. And you need that. You shouldn't be intimate with someone if you can't get on a level where you are able to read that person and know that person.
Yeah.
And I think it's tough for people to be vulnerable. Like Jessica, she's had a couple of friends who have like come to her and like opened up and just poured their hearts out or whatever, and then dropped her like a hot potato because afterwards, because they felt so vulnerable sharing that much of their life or whatever, that they were too embarrassed to like be friends with her again. It's
sad.
the oddest thing.
No, I understand that because
Yeah.
they're raw out there, and they might be afraid of judgment.
And I think that's it. But anybody that knows
You
my
think they're
wife
afraid of their
is
own feelings,
not-
though, too?
She is not a judgmental person. You know what
No,
I'm saying?
she's not. I mean, I've had, a 5-hour conversation with her.
Yes.
She's wonderful, but I think that's internal within them. It has nothing to do with
It
you.
is. I can speak from experience that I've ruined some friendships over the years, and it's haunted me, and it still does because of mistakes that I have made, things that have happened in my past, and I've destroyed relationships because I wasn't in a healthy place with myself. I wasn't able to deal with my failures. I wasn't able to face people, and I lost friends because I walked away, and I hurt people because I couldn't deal with my own failures and my own issues. And that's
Are you saying? I'm sorry. Are you saying that you weren't confronting your own feelings or your own issues, or what? What are you saying?
I was running away from my failures. I couldn't
But
face.
do they have to be failures? Is what I'm saying. I mean,
Well,
yes, you might see them as failures, but would we see something or someone else look at something and say, "Oh, it's just something you're dealing with, or something you could be better at"? But would you call it a failure?
but you have to think about, okay, where I'm at now versus where I was 20 years ago.
I don't know.
Where
I
was
didn't know
15,
you
10
then.
years ago.
I didn't know you that either.
Megan, I understand.
I can.
Years ago, I went through, because I move a lot. I moved a lot in the Navy and stuff, and so I had a lot of different boxes that I haven't opened in years and years and years. And I was trying to pare down a little bit, and I went through a box that I had, like a tote thing that I had from letters when I first joined the Navy, and I had this like best friend in high school that used to write me letters all the time. And I got this letter on how I was a really shitty friend,
Oh, damn.
like really bad. And it just really opened my eyes. And I forgot about this. I know I read it at some point, but I think I just kind of like blocked it out. And it hurt me. And I think that started me on the path, like a different path and stuff. Like, I will never do that again. I burned it. I burned the letter because I never wanted to read it again because that was really hard. Because 20 years ago, I'm not the person that I am now.
I hurt because I hurt people, and I want so bad. There's a few people in my past that I want to be able to go to and just tell them that I am so sorry because how much, and let them know how much they still to this day mean to me. And I know that I hurt them because I walked away because I couldn't deal with myself.
Exactly.
Where you guys just,
and that's where that comes from. It's not you, it's me. But that's really a thing.
But you actually have to be able to admit that thing. Each person has to be able to take their own shortcomings, and like Kirk has always said, that big word, introspection. You have to be able to take, and I mean, look, I went for a hike. I know we're coming up on the end of the show here, but I went for a hike last Saturday, and it was just quiet. Actually, I did listen to a podcast while I was there, but in the middle, miles from everything, miles from sound, and had time to just reflect on myself and what I have going on in my life. And I think everybody needs that. It's very, very important to do that, to own your own shortcomings. And hey,
y'all have given me an environment where I can admit that I effed up and it's okay.
There you go. Folks, write down the things you want us to talk about. If you heard something we touched on this evening, write it down. Send it to us. We will try to elaborate on that. And we love you guys. Share. And one more thing. Share. Please get us out there. Let's grow this thing. We love you guys. Life in Progress Radio at gmail.com and all the socials. See you guys later. Bye-bye.